Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am not joined by Don Pizzette this week. We actually have a fill-in. You can see him over there, Mr. Wes Bryan. Wes, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good to be here.
Yeah, we had to raise the mic higher.
That's right.
And get all the books that Don normally stands on. We had to take them out of the room.
That's right. Don't
People
need any
don't know.
books.
Don
That's
is
right.
only 3.5 feet
Don
tall.
is 3.5
That's
feet
right.
tall.
No high chair needed.
Nope. And you heard as well, that's Daniel Lowry. Daniel, how's it going?
What up?
Good to have some consistency here, at least with you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Well, you know, I could be bothered to do my job.
Yeah. That's good. That's the only day of the week that we bother you to do your job.
That's it.
All right, and we are also joined by another special guest today. We have Chris DiSalle, who is a senior incident response consultant at Cisco Talos Intelligence Group. Chris, how you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, and you're just right down the road down in the Orlando area. So you work remote, right? Yeah. There's not like a big Cisco presence there, is there?
No, there is, Cisco buildings all over. But as far as where I'm at, I'm remote at home.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be on one of those like Avenger shield flying ships. That just sounds cooler.
See,
that's actually the
floating
house.
platform.
Yeah, gotcha. There you go.
Yeah, I think Daniel has a really skewed idea of what the Talos Intelligence Group is.
Man, Cisco got that money. They could make that.
I know they could do that. I don't think they choose not to. But let's find out more about Chris and more about the actual truth of that group in our first segment, which is Rapid Fire Questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Chris, what we're going to do here is we're going to throw about 5 questions at you. We're going to put 5 minutes on the clock. And if you go too long on time, we will buzz you. But we probably won't because we're nice people. So I'll go ahead and jump in with our first question, which, I think everybody knows who Cisco is, so we don't have to do so tell us about the company you work for. But I don't know that everyone knows about the Talos Intelligence Group and what that group within Cisco does. So can you give us kind of a little bit of an overview there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cisco Talos Incident Response, and more specific, the intelligence group, was a result of the acquisition from SourceFire by Cisco back in 2013. So now Talos Intelligence Group is a global leader in cyber threat intelligence. We gather security relevant data from a number of products within our own incident response engagements, and then also open source and premium data sources. We also use that information and intelligence to back-end our Cisco products, basically making all of our customers more secure with that information.
Chris, your role looks very similar, if you will, to what you were doing in the Air Force in terms of threat hunting. How did you think that prepared you for life outside of the military? I got to say, as far as the military experience, a lot of that definitely created a strong foundation for networking, system administration, which eventually led into understanding and identifying anomalies. What you're referring to is my time doing threat hunting in the reserves, where I was able to learn about different types of systems for network security monitoring, SIM, but the ability to take, classified information, extract indicators out of that, and create detections in order to help my team and, identify those anomalies as quick as possible.
I have noticed a trend with the United States military being very adept at creating cybersecurity professionals.
It's a good feeder program.
I've been telling people a lot, hey, if you really want to do some cybersecurity, join the military, and they will teach you everything you need to know.
And we've talked to several on the Israeli side, too. That's a great...
We're not the only ones. Yeah. Now, that said, the Talos Intelligence Group is kind of an elite organization as well, just in the private sector, obviously doing great work out there. How does someone get into that, though? Like, was it specifically your military background that got you there? Or, like, what was your chain of events that led you to there?
I wouldn't say it was solely the military experience that got me to that. It definitely, like I said, it created that foundation for me to build on. But to be honest, between that, I worked at a defense contractor shortly after my military active duty experience, where I was learning all about governance, risk and compliance, and risk management framework. And then at the same time, I was doing the reserves. I was doing those the threat hunts and trying to identify and eradicate attackers. So a mix of all those things, plus the things that I do at home, like working in my home lab or trying to do research on the latest threat, or just practicing with open source tools.
Well, you seem like the kind of guy that doesn't like downtime, because I know that even while you're working there, you actually took some time to teach at the college level, and you're doing some other things. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I'm also teaching with Thrive DX, which is formerly HackerU. They've got contracts with a lot of the universities around the country. So I was fortunate to be able to teach for University of Central Florida and University of Miami, teaching a number of different classes that range from Linux, cloud, Microsoft security, Python, ethical hacking, digital forensics, incident response, you name it. If it's in the the cyber wheelhouse, we were touching on it.
Are those undergrad things, or is that more like advanced?
That was a professional certificate through the university.
Very cool. All right, so you've kind of got the inside track. You know about some things before we know. So what is something that's out there that but it's just not getting the level of awareness that you think it should? Like, is there something, a specific type of threat that people just aren't worried about enough?
I think we all know.
The elderly.
They're coming for you.
Yeah.
I think cloud and ICS, industrial control systems. If I had to name a couple there, we're starting to see a lot of training around that, but it may be, I don't want to say too little too late, but in reality, we've had the architecture and the systems that we currently have for a very long time, and we're still having trouble making sure that those are all secured properly. As we continue to build out the convenience through other technologies, we may need to get training faster, and specifically for cloud. When it comes to something like cloud forensics, there's probably not a whole lot of people that know how to do that in comparison to, for example, Windows Active Directory networks. So cloud, antiquated ICS systems are always at risk. And then just the normal everything else that we're dealing with, the different variants of ransomware and threat groups that are deploying that.
Would you say that the ICS problem is probably stemming from the fact that they are like very legacy systems, or difficult to get your hands on for things like practice and learning? Is that the roadblock to success for that area and keeping it more safe?
Yeah, I think it is, to really do it the right way. Right. It comes down to doing, at least for me, when it comes to learning, I'm a doer. So I know that there's teams like Dragos that have, some of these tools that they're playing with and practicing with. And it's definitely the right path forward, I think, to make sure that you can secure that properly. Also defense in depth, right? Ensuring that you've got the right defensive measures around those antiquated systems are another way to ensure that you're protecting them as best as possible.
Yeah, the labs we need nowadays are like old thermostats and things like that you can.
Well, I mean, you get some of those Siemens PCL or logic control PLCs, and you can kind of set up a home lab, but it starts getting kind of pricey. It's difficult to start building those types of labs so that you can get your hands on working with like Modbus or whatever, and seeing how that works and how you could hack those things. It's doable. It's just a little bit of a price point of entry.
And traditionally, those networks used to be air-gapped. But then somebody had the bright idea.
Man, I got to do this in my underwear.
That's right. I need to connect to these TCP/IP networks. It must be much better now.
I got to watch The Simpsons.
People like Chris have to be able to work from home now.
Yeah,
Come on.
right. Exactly.
All right, Chris, while we have you here, I'd like to move on to another topic that I know you have some insight on. So we want to talk about pre-ransomware best practices. And I assume that we're not talking about before we send out our ransomware. We're talking about the things that we need to be doing before we get the ransomware, that not if, but when we get that ransomware, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that they assume breach, and that's not a bad way to go about it. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're putting the right things in place for an event in case it were to happen. And what I mean by that is there's both, you've got your detection and then you've got your response. A lot of people have the ability to detect that there's something, anomalous or suspicious happening in their environment. But what we're finding is that not all of them have the same flexibility to make those changes in their environment, at least, quickly, because time is of the essence when these things are happening. So we've seen a lot of success in, talking to customers about their environment, finding out what they've seen, in scoping, and providing recommendations, tactical recommendations on the fly, that things that they can change immediately. But some of them may not have the ability to make those changes. Such changes could include, tactical things like implementing multi-factor authentication, leveraging operating system native protective measures, like Windows Defender Credential Guard for protecting your secrets, in memory. disabling unnecessary ports and shares protocols. Logging is huge. I would say that some of the things that we need to see more often is logs and longer, timeframes on those logs.
You lost me at make more logs. I'm just
yeah.
People cannot
generating logs is big.
Yeah, they can't be like bothered to do log. And I'm like, you understand if you're not watching this system, people are going to do stuff to it, right?
I mean, they're going to do it regardless, but not having the evidence isn't going to help you when it comes time to respond to that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, the tactical nature of this, and you've also mentioned defense in depth. How much of that is user awareness as far as the pre-ransomware practice goes?
A lot of that is. And while it's not, and they say people is the weakest link, right? It's not always the case where it's a user that clicked on something, but I'd be lying if I say that I haven't seen that a lot. So it's a mix of things. One thing that I recommend to a lot of customers that we have is, including a human in the loop. And what I mean by that is you can have all of the silver bullet tools out there that are looking at your network traffic, that are backended by threat intelligence, that are looking at the actions happening on your system between, parent process and child process execution and command line arguments attached to those. But at the end of the day, if no one's looking at that stuff, it's just going to get by unless you've got a very strict, security configuration in place where it's just going to block everything. Then again, that's probably not the best way to go about it, because you could be shutting yourself down from, performing the function that you need to operationally.
One of the things that I feel like I keep hearing when we talk about a lot of the big ransomware attacks that have happened recently is they're saying, that they paid or they had the insurance company pay. There's a lot of organizations that I feel like they've got to be doing good backups. Is it just easier to pay sometimes than actually going and getting the backup and restoring from that?
So yeah, backups is one of those things that we're starting to see a lot of adversaries are just wiping the backups, right? Maybe you don't have secondary authentication to the backups, or you don't have a cold storage backup. So you find that they just authenticated straight in and encrypted those too, or maybe they removed them. So backups are essential. To answer your question, we don't recommend the payment. However, that's also case by case. At the end of the day, if someone's saying, hey, $5,000, you can have all this data back, you kind of have to, because it gets to risk assessment at that point. And it's up to the leadership of the customer to determine, what's the best course of action at that point.
Do we see a lot of like cyber insurance companies just basically negotiating a lower settlement, and then it just kind of goes hush hush and sweep it under the rug and call it a day?
When it comes to that, that's part that we don't see. They usually go through insurance, and maybe insurance may have a breach coach that they put them in touch with. However, that's not something that we really get into. We're more of the incident response, incident handling, and digital forensic side of that.
So you're coming in after the fact and then looking at, okay, what went wrong? How can we patch these holes for next time? Is that kind of where your organization fits in?
I mean, realistically, I've come in as soon as someone's seen anomalous activity. I've come in after the encryption, and I've even come in after they think that they've eradicated that adversary. But we've done all those steps. It's very common that we'll get called in. We're able to stop an adversary before they encrypt the entire network, and we can eradicate based on some of those tactics and techniques that we've seen, right? If I know that they're using these IPs, they're using these tools, we can put protections in place to maintain the operations of the client, but also protect them against any further execution.
That sounds fun. I got one last question for you. What's your favorite security-related thing to do where when it comes up, you just hear Flight of the Valkyries playing, you're like, da, 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 oh, yes, I love this, and you get to do it. What's your favorite thing?
We do a lot of proactives within the team. I've talked a lot about the emergency response side, but as far as proactive work, anything that's technical, like a threat hunt or a compromise assessment, when I have customers that want that kind of work, my job is my hobby. So I'm pretty excited when someone says they want that, because now I get to either play with tools that I've never played with before, or maybe I have, and I get to try them in a new environment. Everybody's different. All these environments are different, and every time is a learning opportunity.
Cool.
Sounds like it likes to be on offense instead of defense.
Who doesn't, man? Well, there's always like aspects to either blue teaming or red teaming or whatever that are active that you get to actually play with things and do stuff. And I assume that's what Chris is talking about.
Yeah, that's some fun time.
It really is. Having studied a lot of the pen test side or the red team side, they go hand in hand. The more you understand about the red team side of things can really help you with how to defend.
Purple team.
Purple team is
Pretty
for
much.
when you ain't got the budget
When you
to
don't
do.
have the money to
never
do
mind.
Red and
both
blue, yeah. It's a really good
individually.
solution
Yeah.
All right.
for going down the middle there.
All right. Well, Chris, I know one of the things you like to do is help other people that are coming up in the field, and you work a lot with mentoring and things like that. Can you tell us about what you do there?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So I work with both Veterati and Blue Team Village and in a mentoring capacity. So I just wanted to use this opportunity to let anyone know if this is something they're interested in getting in and they want to talk to someone about it, hit me up. I'm available as a mentor. BlueTeamVillage.org and Veterati.com are two ways that you can reach out through those platforms and we can chat.
Fantastic.
He also runs a street gang.
A red team gang that goes out and hit these things before they happen.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, we really appreciate it. Like we said, you work for just a really cool organization, and love getting your insight and hearing some of that. How you got to where you are, how other people can kind of follow in that. So if that's something you're thinking about, definitely check them out on those platforms, Blue Team Village and Veterati. But Chris, thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Y'all take care.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Man.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. And we're going to go through the news from this week, all coming up on Technado with Don Pizzette. Need to create custom training videos and not sure where to start? The IT Pro TV studios are your answer. Whether you're creating end-user training, employee training, a podcast, or general promotional videos, the IT Pro TV studio team is here to help. Choose the level of service that fits your needs, from ad hoc video production to the convenience of turnkey service. Available services include pre-shoot consultation, recording, editing, makeup, on-camera talent, and more. Choose from a variety of sets, or customize the look using your own background displays and props. And if you think video is outside your budget, think again. The IT Pro TV studios are an affordable option with half, full, and multi-day rates available. Visit itpro.tv/custom-training to see the sets, view a detailed list of equipment, schedule a visit, and request your personalized quote. Don't stress about video creation. Let the IT Pro TV studio team bring your video ideas to life. All right, hello and welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Chris for joining us, and that was pretty insightful. And you know what happens when you don't show up for the show, Don? We talk about the Yo Mama jokes that people have sent in, that we asked you to send in. We asked you to send in Yo Mama jokes, and if we read them on the air, we will send you a T-shirt. So it looks like Christina Turner is getting a T-shirt, and I enjoy this one. She says, as requested, my Yo Mama joke. Don's mama's so poor, the ducks throw bread at her.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
I like that one. One that I didn't like as much is one that
One I didn't like as much. And yet we're going to read that one now.
well, I'm still going to read
Here's
it.
one I hate.
The guy took the time to send it in. I just don't get it, which is fair. So let's see. This one
It just says Peter sucks.
Yeah.
That's a weird
What
mama
the heck,
joke.
buddy. All right, this came from Ben L, who said, "Yo, mama's so blockchain." I mean, that's a bad start right there.
Yeah.
That's bad. But your mama's so blockchain, she wants you to plant a myrtle tree in her front yard.
Okay. Helps if you probably know a little bit more about blockchain.
Yeah, or Merkle trees. I had to look that up. It's in cryptography and computer science, a hash tree or Merkle tree is a tree in which every leaf node is labeled with the cryptographic hash.
Did I pass out?
Turn the crickets off now.
Did.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Wake up, Dan.
if
I'm not
that's
making
your
fun of the
field,
man, yeah.
if that's your field, that's funny.
That's probably hysterical around the blockchain.
To the right,
water cooler,
to the right crowd. I am not the right crowd for that
No.
one, but
I'm into security, and cryptography is just not like, it's one of those things where I'm like, so a bunch of math, and then things get jumbled, and I can't read it. Cool, I like it.
at the end of the day, Ben's still getting a shirt, and
Give him two.
I assume that's negative thing about Don's mom, and I love it. As a result,
I advocated for you, man. I'm trying to get you 2 shirts.
yeah. Well, we'll see.
Never know.
We'll see.
Peter might feel very generous.
I doubt it. All right. Well, let's get to the news from this week. Our first article comes to us from TechCrunch.com. ProtonMail logged IP address of French activists after order by Swiss authorities. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
this is when it's great to live in the United States of America where we have freedom. But are there any services out there that we wouldn't have to worry about this with, or basically anybody's just gonna?
The most secure email service that I am aware of is called Sea Templar, and it's out of Iceland. Iceland has very strong personal privacy laws.
Was that started by the Knights Templar?
It was not.
Do they know where the Holy Grail is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the oldest.
What's great is they, it's one of the oldest. There's a guy going, "You have chosen wisely." For those that get that joke.
Yeah, no, fantastic.
But they have a comparison chart there, and they talk about the difference between themselves and ProtonMail, and another one called Tutanota. I'm not familiar with Tutanota, but kind of showing you the differences. Like, is there TLS encryption? Yeah, and they all three have that. Encrypted attachments, yes. But when you start getting it down into the nitty gritty, you start seeing things like data sharing law with USA. C Templar says no, thank you. As where ProtonMail says, yes, we will do law sharing, right? That is a part of their thing. Is there 2FA? Are they recording IPs? Whereas C Templar says we are not recording IPs, right? They do go into their fine print and say, okay, so we record them for like a few days for
but they're not
very specific
stored.
purposes, and then we remove them. Even if we were to give over like if we were to say, okay, throw our hands up in the air and abide by, they say they only abide by Icelandic law. Same thing with ProtonMail. They are following suit because the Swiss government said you must give us access to this. Give us any information you have. This did not come from France. It came from France by way of...
It was a liaison between Swiss and the French government.
Yeah. And they're very reluctant. They do fight that kind of thing every year. Like, obviously, this isn't the first time they've been asked to release information. They were compelled by law to do so. The fact that they were still storing that, I don't know in what capacity that they continued that they store those things, but since they had it, they had to hoof it over, which they did. Otherwise, they would be in violation of the law. Now they could have took a stand, and someone could go to jail, and all that other wonderfulness. And you can measure them by that standard if you like.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because a lot of the tweets are in French, so it's tough to follow. But it sounds like since they do business in Switzerland, they have to comply with those local laws, and that's the tricky thing about doing business internationally.
And since this was passed on from France by means of another intermediary, maybe Interpol or something, and then that went straight to the Swiss government, and the Swiss government actually took this on as a case. Now they're under Swiss law, and since they are a Swiss business, they were compelled to turn over their information. That said, C Templar does not seem to have that problem, at least according to them. Like I said, they're also, and I think ProtonMail to their benefit also has this capability as well. They have an onion site. So all of this stuff is completely any IPs that they had at that point would be, onion sites or Tor endpoints.
Anonymized.
So, now you got to follow that back trail if you can.
Yeah.
And then there you go. So they both have that functionality as well.
Well, there's a great quote that's actually called out in the sidebar of this article. It says, in general, though, unless you are based 15 miles offshore in international waters, it's not possible to ignore court orders, which, is true. You can ignore them, and then you're going to get in court, and you're going to lose everything.
Sure. I saw that ProtonMail's either their CEO or CIO or somebody was like, we successfully fight off like 700 of these things a year.
Yeah.
Right? So ProtonMail is privacy, at least they do seem to be privacy focused, which I like, which is good. Their capability and ability to do that, they might have had to, or just because they feel like it's the right thing to do, made some caveats.
Yeah.
I mean, you do want to be able to stop bad people.
Sure.
Right?
Bad
but
people
you
are the
also
worst.
want, I'm willing to sacrifice I'm not willing to sacrifice privacy for security. As
who gets to decide who is bad? That's the thing.
If you're murdering people.
Sure. Was this guy murdering? Yeah.
I don't know. There was, I think it was a terrorist group. There were. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't terror. It was
a French activist.
It was a group of French advocates who were trying to stop the gentrification of their area. And kind of.
Yeah, bad is subjective sometimes.
In this case, I would say that would be, Yeah.
Stop it by means of burning down everyone's house.
Yeah, there you go. No.
That's bad.
And they say they comply with lawful requests, but
Right.
they also will challenge anything that doesn't seem
That
lawful.
they feel,
You
right.
can't just say everything's lawful.
Yeah.
That sounds fair.
That sounds like governments. Listen, anything I say is lawful. I'm the law.
That's true. Yeah, when you make the laws.
Yeah, that's not how this works.
Oh, okay. All right, let's move on to our next article, which comes to us from Newsweek.com. Brooklyn woman allegedly destroyed 20 gigabytes of credit union's data after being fired, which begs the question, Wes, when you're inevitably fired, what system will you try to burn down on your way out?
Everyone I've set an admin account on.
Oh, you got a lot of backdoors that you've set up? That's smart.
Well, no, it's not a backdoor. It's an admin. You go right in the front door. You
that's
built
true.
the door.
Because when they shut down your account, which I mean, the takeaway here is shut down the
That
account
did not happen.
before you're firing the person, or as you've got the person in the room.
We
the other
fired
guy's flipping
Denise the
switch.
other day.
Yeah. My
Really?
question is, what is their offboarding process? We fired you. You're still going to be on the books for the next 5
Can
years.
you come into work on Thursday, by the way?
Well, that's why you can't do the spur of the moment firings, and that's what I want mine to be. Is like I want to get in a shouting match and just be told, "Well, you're fired," and then it's just a race for me to like
Had that happen. It's not as fun as it sounds.
make eyes with the network admin that has to disable my account as I run back to my machine and see what I can do. But this is a bad situation because I'm imagining 20 gigs of data can be, she would know where the important data is, being on the inside.
Yeah, that's why insider threats are so dangerous, is because there is an assumed level of trust. Now, that said, like you have pointed out so eloquently, she was dismissed and yet still had access. So obviously this was a negligence on the part of their offboarding process, as Wes said.
Well, unless, I know Wes was kidding, but, if you disable her user account, but she still knows the admin password.
So I worked in IT for many years as an administrator, and I dealt with firings and having to lock people out of systems. That's what you do. So when this is the process that we would use where I worked, was I would get a word from HR that we are dismissing so-and-so within the next 20 minutes. Go ahead, and what I would do is disable all of their accounts. They had no access at that point. Don't delete them, but they are disabled. Once the dismissal has occurred and people are off premise and everything, then I go in and I, through my administrative functionality, change the passwords of the things they had access to and start moving and migrating their ownership of objects to others, right? This is why I'm a much bigger fan of role-based access and not necessarily rule-based access for individuals. If I have you set in a role, I could just, like, if Peter was the manager of Technado and then, we caught you doing bad things, we dismiss you, I just pull you out of that role and you no longer have those access. And I put Wes in that role. He has all the access he needs. Done, right? It's a much simpler process. Not that there aren't some, loose ends you have to tie up, but it's a lot easier to find those loose ends, tie them up, and fix them, especially since I've already changed your ability to access the system. So if they're not doing that, they have a problem with their offboarding process and their security process that they need to revamp, because otherwise she should have never been able to do this after the fact.
Sure. Definitely. Well, I think the takeaway here is if you live in Brooklyn and bank at a credit union, make sure that your mortgage has a balance before you pay it, because she might have wiped that out.
Yeah, I don't think she did. I think what she did do,
like shared files.
It was shared files on some of the other employees' systems, which they were in backups, and I think they even said that
they said they spent about $10,000 getting things back up, but it sounds like they had everything.
Not a huge crime. She wasn't she was trying to be malicious, but without really being harmful. At least that's what it seems like from the article.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, though, that she's not getting a letter of recommendation.
No.
Which might have been...
The bridge is burnt.
Yeah, bridge is burnt, and maybe some jail time.
It very well could be.
A little bit community service, maybe.
Y'all, listen here. Take a break. Big deep breath.
Yeah.
And then don't do the wrong thing on your way out, because it's one thing to get fired. It's one thing to get fired and then go to jail.
That's right.
Right? Is that really worth it? I don't think so. And I know you're emotional at that point. It's not a fun experience, but try to control yourself and then move on with your life.
Better to be handed your hat than handed handcuffs.
Yeah, man. Go stay. Let's go to the county hotel.
That's right.
Have a drink.
Yeah.
Go home and have a drink.
It's got a 5-star review on Google.
I doubt it. by the guards. And Glassdoor.
And the warden.
Exactly. Glassdoor.
If it's anything like that Shawshank prison, warden loves it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on now to bleepingcomputer.com for our next article. Microsoft announces Visual Studio Code for the web public preview. So this has nothing to do with Windows 11 or any of that new stuff coming out.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Of course, I'm not a big one. It does have an update. After the story was published, a Microsoft spokesperson told Bleeping Computer that the announcement was mistakenly published, and Visual Studio Code for the web hasn't yet reached public preview.
So maybe it's coming soon. They
It
were
would
getting
seem
this,
so. And
getting this one
accidentally.
ready.
Yeah.
Does anyone still use Visual Studio Code?
I have no idea. I think it's pretty popular, right?
I have it right now, and I tell you what, for preview and things like JSON, if you're deploying to Azure. Now, I haven't used it that much. Mike is a big advocate because he one of the other educators.
Justin as well.
Exactly, because it really just it shows your code and everything. But for what I'm using it for, I'm just kind of getting used to it. I've got it installed locally, but I don't have the web version. It's interesting that the web version says there's about 6 things you can't do, like debug your code. There's a few things. So
I mean, it sounds pretty cool though, being able to
see it,
just
heads
run
up.
it as a web app. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So you won't be able to build, run, or debug your applications. So I don't know. If
So
that's
total garbage.
Those seem to be the
broken
main
by
things
design.
you wanna do. I know Don said that he's tried it, but he went back to Sublime Text. Is that something you guys have used?
I have used Sublime Text.
Oh yeah, I use what the heck do I use?
I
right
use
now?
Atom.
I use
usually.
HaruPad right now.
HaruPad's
so
pretty
that's what I'm
popular.
using. Yeah.
If I'm in Linux, I'm running Linux natively, so I have Atom installed. I've just gotten so used to Atom that it's my choice. But other than that, Nano, I'm pretty straightforward. I don't need a lot of the bells and whistles and frills.
Well, so the main thing here, it looks like, I mean, it's kind of the whole trend of all the Microsoft products these days. It is browser-based, and so runs entirely in the browser without backing compute. So, I mean, that's where we're going with 365. That's where we're going with.
You'll own nothing and you'll like it.
And you'll pay a subscription.
No local installs.
Yeah. I mean, I like that idea. No, I'm not.
I was going to say, I know you in local installs. You keep it as light and minimalistic as possible.
It gets to run like a well-oiled machine, and usually, it's funny. Windows 11 comes out, and this and that comes out, and it's like, well, now I need more resources, so I got to go buy a new piece of hardware, and it's like, why are you just basically building stuff to utilize all the latest and greatest hardware and making it more difficult for that stuff to run? And eventually we continue this accordion game of, what is it? Software moves this way and its capabilities, and then hardware has to catch up, and then hardware surpasses it, and then software goes, I can use all this hardware now.
That's right.
Keep it. I just need it to run a browser. I need it to run some terminal and maybe virtualization.
Yeah, interesting point here in the comments, and assume it's true. But they say Visual Studio Code is built on Electron, which is a modified copy of Chromium.
Which is a modified copy of Chrome.
Yeah, so much of it was already built to run it in a browser. So I guess this is the logical next step. So, we will update probably when that actually does come out, because it sounds like you said, Daniel, that there was an update.
Yeah.
That this might not fully be out yet, but coming soon.
Not quite baked.
Coming soon. Ding. All right. Next up, we're going over to the record.media. Billions of devices impacted by new BrakTooth Bluetooth vulnerabilities. And I know Don's just been saying for years, stop using Bluetooth because it sucks. But millions and billions of people probably, or billions of devices at least, are using Bluetooth. So what is BrakTooth, and who is in trouble of being
it's almost like a denial of service type thing where it crashes and basically freezes devices.
Yeah.
The most serious being the remote code exploitation.
Yes.
That can happen, but it's not across all devices. It's not protocol specific.
It's specific
vendor
to the vendor.
specific,
Yes.
Yeah, and how they implement the system on a chip.
So
Wes, everybody.
specific chip.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it looks like some Intel, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments.
Yeah, there was a nice little rundown of who is vulnerable and in what way. So let's see here.
Volvo's on there.
Yeah. Where is that stinking? There it is.
Walmart stores, Panasonic.
Was it Espressive Systems is...
Did you say Espresso Systems?
Yeah, Espresso Systems.
Man, no more
Cafe latte.
That's right.
But they have patches available on what they're vulnerable to. So, again, moving Qualcomm. I like how Texas Instruments just threw up double birds.
I was just going to say, not all the vendors are even going to patch it. They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll
I
keep
guess
selling
that's the way the
calculators.
cookie crumbles sometimes.
Bunch of 8th graders on their graphing
that's
calculators.
right.
Not going to be able to do anything.
no, someone got it in my
What do you mean I can't do my
TI-85?
homework?
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you mean I can't draw a butt anymore? Because that's what those are for. I
That's
believe.
right.
Yeah.
But it also mentioned some Microsoft Surface laptops, the Surface Laptop 3, the Surface Go 2, Surface Pro 7, and Surface Book 3.
Yeah.
Which there are a lot more Surface
There's
devices
apparently
than I
a
thought there.
patch in process for the Intel-based chipsets.
Which of those ones would be, right? Probably.
Yeah, oh, most likely.
Yeah.
But a pretty good rundown of like Wes said, you're either going to get a denial of service, it's going to make you have to reboot the device, or in worst case scenario, which is funny because they talk about how many devices are actually exposed to this, right? They talk about 1,400 commercial products, which some are bound to have and reuse the same Bluetooth software stack on how that, but really how many devices are out there are billions. So if you are a part of the subset of that billions, how many devices is that? Probably a lot.
Well, I think the one that's going to have the biggest impact is from Walmart stores, the disco lamp speaker.
Not my disco lamp speaker.
Yeah, yeah. So people
That's it, man.
can flood it with many audio signals. It sounds like, and really mess up.
So it's going to
that
stop
party.
spinning.
I don't know if might keep spinning. Just different sounds come out.
Starts playing the Bee Gees randomly.
Yeah, which would be hell.
Which would be you actually have that on your board over there, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
You got some Bee Gees over there? I thought you did.
Your Bee Gees guy? Me?
No, you on your
on
soundboard.
here?
You
No,
had some Bee
I
Gees.
got rid of that crap.
You
Disco.
mean music?
That disco's not music. I thought we were on the same page there.
Yeah.
Apparently not. All right, well, let's move on to our next article, which is something that's happened in the past that we're looking at again in Deja News.
Deja
News.
It's catchy too.
It is. Well, that's Beyonce. What are you going to do? You know?
Girl knows what she's doing.
Yeah, Queen Bee. All right. This is the one from, I think it was the UK, originally.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the register.com. Leaked Guntrader firearms data file shared. Worst case scenario, criminals plot UK gun owner's home address in Google Earth. So we talked about a while back that a database of gun owners in the UK was breached and it was released, right? Was it released out to the public? Yeah.
Yes.
And so now the gun owner's home addresses can be found in Google Earth. So
Yeah.
which
Gotta
is
love douchebags being douchebags.
well, it's great for the zombie apocalypse that you can be like, hey, we need to get
gotta
our
run to
hands
Bill-
on
Billy.
We
some
know
stuff.
where the
I
guns
didn't know
are.
Billy had a gun. Sweet.
You can bring that map up.
I think you could own firearms.
You can.
and-
It's very restrictive.
Yeah,
I was
you're
going to say, so all the
hunting.
22 owners.
It's not handguns. I think. I
Yeah.
think all handguns are banned. Any kind of like it's basically sporting
Farms.
and hunting.
Yeah, think about all the hunting things you see.
okay.
in
Like an over/under shotgun is
Yeah.
basically what you can have. So,
like Gatling guns. Small Gatling
this
guns.
this article, I was reading this article and it just kind of made off gun owners to be like these victims. It's like they have guns. Like, be on the lookout. Sweet, they're coming to my house. Excellent.
So the people without guns now know where the guns are.
So don't rob that house.
Well, but if other gun owners did come and then they got more guns at your house.
Well, if they have limited access in general to guns, then maybe it's a proposition for them. We know where to find them.
See, I would think of if I were a criminal, I'd be like, man, I'm about to rob that house over there. Hold on, let me look at it. Oh, hell no.
You got a
you
gun.
could use it the other way.
I ain't going near that house. Their neighbor, on the other hand.
They don't just have a Nest thermostat.
Yeah. You got Johnny Five with an over-under waiting for me at the door.
Yeah, so, I guess, it's funny because last time we were speculating, well, what could they do with this list? Well, they could put everybody's name on the internet.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, we're doxing
They
people, and that's not cool. Like, come
never
on,
cool.
people. And it was an animal rights group that said, hey, go ask them if they've shot an animal lately. If
it was
they
an animal
have-
rights group that took credit for the hack.
that posted it
Oh.
onto or mapped it to Google Earth. I think that's what it said.
Go ask them if they've shot an animal. Oh, they're about to.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
on their porch.
Interesting that they did that. I'm trying to find that area where it talks about it and what they told people to do. Anyway.
Shoot back.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to shoot anybody
Oh,
unless
that's
they come and try to rob them. Then
Yeah,
they would
but
be well
I guess
within
they're
their
coming
rights.
with like slingshots and
That would be a mistake.
swords.
Like
This is
I
England.
said, this should be this is basically like a reverse list of people you don't want to go rob.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like the idea to use it that way, and in which all the more reason. Like, hey, I bought a gun, I threw it away right when I got it, but I'm on this list now of
Yeah.
the "Don't Rob Me" list.
I want to get back on that don't rob me list.
Yeah,
How do I do
that.
How do I do
That's
that?
how. Get hacked. All right. I want to let you know about a couple things coming up from IT Pro TV. First of all, we've got a webinar that is happening on Thursday, September 9th, the same day that this very podcast comes out. Azure Virtual Desktop versus Windows 365, which is right for you. The use cases for Windows 11, AVD, and Microsoft 365. Well, we don't get paid by, if you use them or not, so we're going to tell it like it is.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we're going to tell it like it is. But, Mike's a fanboy, so he's
He
going to tell you.
kind of is. He is marked out hard for that.
We're not saying
at
Azure.
Microsoft.
We're just saying
Yeah.
Azure.
Yeah.
So we got Mike Broderick and Adam Gordon doing that one. And don't worry, if you're listening to this after the fact, it will be archived and you can listen to it and watch it again in the future. But head over to itpro.tv/webinars. That's where you can register for it if it's still coming up, or if you did miss it, that's where it will be posted very soon, where you can watch that replay and enjoy learning about virtual desktop and Microsoft 365. And I know we're going to talk about those things a little bit more as well in the future. So don't worry if you missed that, and more webinars coming up soon. Also, head over to Technado.com. Still time to send in those Yo Mama jokes until Don tells me to stop, or we run out of T-shirts. I don't know whichever one comes first. Or, of course, you can send in articles for us to cover. We do appreciate those. Can't always get to them, but if we do, you'll get a T-shirt as well. Also, on that Technado.com website is a big orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro TV. Check that out, and you can get a 30% off coupon code for the lifetime of your personal membership to IT Pro TV. You can also request a team trial and demo and see all the cool features available for teams from IT Pro TV. All right, guys. Well, we didn't miss a beat. Thank you so much, Wes, for jumping in. We appreciate that.
No problem.
You did Don better than Don does, Don.
All right. I didn't know it was possible, but okay. I'll take it.
Remember to lower the mic on your way out.
That's right. That's right.
And
What's he like? 3 feet tall?
that's what I said.
3.5?
Yeah, so roughly.
Yep.
It's tough to tell.
He's a
on all those
booster
books,
seat
so.
to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Wes is freakishly tall.
We have learned, though, that Don also doesn't listen the weeks he doesn't come, so say what
Right.
you want. This is the time. Everything is up for grabs. All right, thanks all you guys, and thank you all of you at home for listening. We'll see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.